Tim, thank you. Fellow Toastmasters, thank you. And Chris, thank you for your speech. Because what this touches on is the fact that our expectations, our criteria change over time. How many of you remember, and there are a few, how many of you remember when participation in the Olympics was restricted to amateur athletics? And it was a big deal if a participant was found to have taken or received support that exceeded the guidelines that was appropriate for amateur athletics. If they crossed this border between being so-called amateurs who were doing it solely for the love of the game. Very brief, I'll say side note here about the word amateur. Perhaps perhaps you've had Latin, and you remember one of those verbs that your Latin teachers ask you to give a conjugation of, and you learn amo, amas, amat. I love. Amateur. They did it for the love of the game. At least that was the ideal. And when the modern Olympics were reinstituted, okay, somebody help me. How many years ago was that? When the modern Olympics were reinstituted?
So right after World War II.
I think it's well before World War II.
Was it? Okay.
It's about.
You said modern. I don't.
It's about 2000, maybe. I mean 1900, maybe 1896, because I know Greece wanted the 100th anniversary games and they didn't get them. The Olympics, the standard was, you did it for the love of the game. You might raise some money to support you in your practices, in your transportation. You might raise some money to support you in possibly equipment. But if you went beyond this boundary that had been established, it was no longer considered amateur. Now what happened about, how long ago was it? 20, 25, 30 years ago? All of a sudden, we realized that that wasn't working. And it wasn't going to work. And certainly we as the United States were not sending our best athletes to the Olympics. We stung the world in, what was it, 1980, when we won the hockey Olympics. And they were pretty much amateurs. But about then, that was the end of the amateur era in Olympics. 1 or 2 Olympics later, the Dream Team. Now, okay, this was over in basketball. Who made up the Dream Team?
NBA.
It sounded like the professional all-star team, didn't it? And this standard, all of a sudden we collectively as a civilization decided that was no longer a standard that was worth trying to maintain a very tenuous hold on. Chris, I'm thinking that you touched on a subject that has challenged athletics, especially pro athletics, especially the visible ones, especially the ones that national pastime. And we all say some kind of an appropriate blessing over it, and we want it to be the most pure and the most everything pure, and we know it hasn't been. And so when do we perhaps make a transition? Now, I don't think anybody has ever accused Cal Ripken of using any illegal drugs. Now, he's one of the very few. But I'm saying deserves all kinds of praise. But I'm saying most of the rest of them, the fans pay to see good performance. That's what they want to see. And is it reasonable? And I think, Chris, and you kind of asked this question. I'll ask it outright. If we want to see good performance, is it reasonable for us to demand of these athletes that, no, you cannot use performance-enhancing drugs? Or should we say, and like the steroids, use them at your own risk, and they're our risk. Use them at your own risk. And if that helps your performance, bless you. We are going to enjoy watching your performance. What should we as a nation of fans be doing? What should we be saying? Or do we need to tell these sports writers to, I think the phrase is, kiss off? I think it's unrealistic. Personally, I think it's unrealistic. And on the other hand, there are a few who have been overly sanctimonious about, oh, I never use this. And all of this evidence says, you are lying through your teeth, which I really don't appreciate, but okay. Those are some thoughts that I want to challenge you on about what we should be doing as fans in America. Mr. Toastmaster.